Is democracy under siege in Canada? Around the world? Hello and welcome to the Unpublished Cafe. I'm Ed Hand. According to Samara Canada, a nonpartisan think tank tracking democracy in Canada, almost two-thirds of Canadians feel alienated from the parliamentarians they voted to represent them. In terms of democracy around the world, it appears, at least according to the economists, it's slipping. We have no further to look than below the 49th parallel, which the economist finds has become a flawed democracy. Well, Unpublished Ottawa aims to change that. James O'Grady founded the vehicle to empower Canadians who felt unheard or shut out of the process. And that's why we're here to talk about the evolution of Unpublished Ottawa. And James joins us. And James, let's go back to the beginning. And what sparked you to start Unpublished Ottawa?
Well, I saw that people were having difficulty in terms of engaging in the political process, and even candidates running in a municipal election in 2010, which I ran myself. Not everyone was able to get their letters published into the paper. And so I thought afterwards, after speaking to a number of people who had lost, like myself, that there was an opportunity there to allow people for different voices to come forward. And we just basically needed a platform that would help that happen. And so that's why I built Unpublished Ottawa.
And it's grown how much since the launch in 2010?
Well, we started from scratch, and so now we have over 5,500 followers on Facebook. We have a number of people following us through email and just online in general. And it's been great. The pickup and interest in it, the discussion that happens on our Facebook page has been excellent.
How does it fit into the, I guess, mainstream media is a phrase that gets thrown around, but I guess in the media landscape in Canada today?
It's more of a social media site. We're not media per se from that perspective. I never wanted to have the site compete. It's more to augment what media is and isn't able to do. Newspapers are limited by the space that they have on their pages in terms of the letters and feedback that they can actually print. So we provide an online opportunity for people to express themselves, whether or not they were successful in getting their letter or op-ed printed in the paper. They can post it to Unpublished Ottawa. We will not only share it through our social media channels, but also promote it and put some money towards it on Facebook to a targeted audience that allows for a positive feedback and more discussion to take place.
Now, obviously, social media plays a part in the propaganda we deal with today. How can you guarantee that Unpublished Ottawa or the unpublished sites in general are not going to get sort of lumped in with those groups?
That is an issue for us, and that's why we want to expand the offering and give us an opportunity to not only take the empowerment of Canadians further, to engage them in a slightly different way, but also to differentiate ourselves from some of the fake news sites that are being created. We are in no way partisan. The idea is to be nonpartisan and to allow everybody to participate. The opportunity is really unique right now in terms of what's going on around the world, and I think that we have an opportunity here. All Canadians have an opportunity to strengthen our democracy, and this is really what Unpublished.vote is going to be all about.
All right, let's talk about Unpublished.vote, which is part of the evolution of Unpublished Ottawa and the Unpublished Cafe. Maybe lay out how this all works over a 7-day cycle.
So what we would like to do is gauge people from at the beginning of the week, Canadians, in a particular issue, a hot issue that's going on right now. And like for us, which we've been covering through the cafe and in the beta version of Unpublished.vote, the SNC Lavalin affair, for example. So we will do a podcast on that through the cafe, led by yourself. We will introduce that on Monday at the beginning of the week. Throughout the week, we will have smaller votes and little surveys and things for people to engage in on that subject. But primarily, we're going to be asking them to educate themselves using the resources that we provide by listening to the cafe show that you have, and then also to vote. And not only will you be able to vote to express your opinion on a particular issue, but you'll also be able to email your political representative, whether it's at the federal, provincial, or municipal level, depending on what it is that we're doing. And then at the end of the week, we're going to do a live streaming online TV show, if you want to call it that, where we're going to engage and interact with our audience in a live environment and discuss that particular issue. So each week, we're going to have something happening every day in order to engage people on the issue, to help educate them, and then absolutely to empower them. And I think that's the key to this.
You've said engage and empower quite a bit. Do you feel Canadians aren't engaged and don't feel empowered?
I think they feel, as I did coming out of university, which is that once you're out of the kind of educational stream and you're not engaged or part of a political party, it is hard to engage. It's hard to actually be involved. I mean, the papers, writing letters to the editor is one way, but how do you really get involved and influence what's happening? It's difficult, and it has always been difficult. And so I think that people, and we see it, that for the most part, participation has been decreasing over the last few decades, and people feel disenfranchised. You see a movement to bring proportional representation forward because some people feel that our current system is not fair. It's really only built for two parties and not for four or more. So you end up getting false majorities. So this is an argument. And so you just generally see that people are becoming more and more disenfranchised. And I think that's bad for our democracy. So Unpublished.vote and all of the Unpublished Media products, really, Cafe, TV, Vote, and UnpublishedOttawa.com are all about getting people more engaged in our political process and in our democracy, because democracy, you have to live it.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't live it, it's not going to survive.
Let's tear apart this unpublished vote a little bit more. And it's enough to say you're going to have a poll question at the end of for you to vote on. But I'm wondering how far this goes. What makes this unique compared to whether somebody a pollster is calling you at home or you're just clicking something online?
Well, this isn't a poll, and I want to be clear about that. This isn't scientific. Really, what it is a tool to help educate people, to bring them up to date on an issue. Let's face it, everybody's busy. We have our own jobs and our families to take care of, and politics isn't at the top of people's list. But it needs to be in the mix more than it is now. And so we're trying to create something that is easy to use, that is simple, that will engage them and empower them at the same time.
So we put a vote on the website and they vote. Let's talk about where that vote goes. Because if they're going to be voting on an issue, that message gets to their MP or MPP, right?
Right. So if they decide, and this is entirely up to the people who participate, you can do it anonymously or not. But if you decide to write an email to your political representative, you're able to express your opinion. And I think this is really important, that the MPs see that people in their own riding disagree, that no one is uniform on a particular issue. And I can tell you right now, I know that's going to happen. But at the same time, I think it's important that they actually learn the reasons why people think they do, the reasons behind why they think what they do, so that they can better understand and make those arguments in Parliament or within their own party, in caucus, in cabinet, and so that so Canadians will have more of an impact. We don't know necessarily what the MP is going to do with that information, but if they receive enough of them, you can be sure that it's going to start to change their thinking. And I hope that the Canadian government, Canadian parliamentary system will see that there's nothing scary about engaging Canadians on a daily basis in the decision-making process. And I think that we can help influence that.
One of the issues, and we've seen this rise in the last couple of years here in Canada and the U.S., is the strength of the party system. It's not necessarily the parliamentarian or the MP. It's the party that's making the march, making them dance.
The whip vote is a really bad thing. political representatives are supposed to represent everybody in their riding or in the particular area. That's the job description. But you can't do that if you're hyper partisan. And so we have a situation where a lot of people are not being represented. In fact, you could say the the majority of voters in every riding, how many actual MPs are elected with more than 50% of that vote? Even the parties aren't being. So most of the people are voting against the people that represent them. So it's very difficult in a hyper-partisan environment that for them to actually do their job properly. And so that causes a problem. And if that's the situation for every single MP, that's a real problem. And that's a problem for democracy and Canadians. So the more that they know about how we're feeling, I think the better. And if they understand that it's going to affect them 2, 3, 4 years down the line, then maybe they'll begin to change their behavior. I think it's time that we get rid of the hyper-partisanship. I think it's easy to see south of the border that there is nothing good that comes of it.
Now, when we look at the website and unpublished.vote, how do you see that growing, and what benchmark will you set for whether this has an impact on democracy or not?
We're going to find out. I think we'll see through time whether or not government changes, whether or not the politicians will embrace us. I certainly hope they will. This is an opportunity for them to engage voters all across the country, but most specifically in each of their ridings. So if they like being in power, if they like their jobs, this is a great way to stay in touch with people and to really understand what they're thinking. From our perspective, it's obviously imperative that Canadians embrace what we're doing. For this to be successful, we need Canadians to participate. My hope is that by getting the word out and by creating and delivering a great product that people enjoy using and see the value in, that they will share this with their friends, with their people that they know, and that others will come to it because it's just natural. But this definitely, we need Canadians to help us make this a reality.
All right, let's wind up here with something we can do with unpublished.vote. And from your perspective, what do you think are the biggest threats to democracy today?
I think propaganda and fake news, for me, is a big issue. And that's really why I wanted to do unpublished.vote. Unpublished Ottawa is a great concept, but it is a little bit getting picked up in that sphere. And there's no way. I've spent my entire life fighting against propaganda, studying it, understanding it. My background is communications. In no way do I want to promote that. So we've been very tough on our terms of service in terms of what people are allowed to publish. It has to be factual. And I don't believe that is the way to truly solving any problems. The fake news, the deep fake that we've talked about in the Unpublished Cafe, these things do not add any value. They only hurt. And so we need to come up with ways to challenge that. And I've always believed that transparency is the best way to make sure that people know what's going on. The more open you are, the more likely people are to believe you, the less likely they are to doubt what you're saying and doing.
All right. Well, in terms of the unpublished.vote, we want to hear from you. And what do you feel is the biggest threat to democracy today? And you have a number of selections. We'll go with propaganda, fake news, social media, apathy. You can log on and vote at unpublished.vote right now, and we'll provide you with the results on that. Thank you for listening to the Unpublished Cafe. I'm Ed Hand.